So that means we're ready to start with chapter 1, which is the scenery. So you see I have like this white background behind me with some small elements. It used to be filled with a lot of cards. I've already, yeah, Bea just said if there were questions, you can text them, which would be great. Then I can pick in on them. Would be great. So scenery. I've put all those things away, so I just put some small elements behind me so they're not too attention-getty. I would like you to decide whether you want to give your pitch sitting down or standing up. If you're sitting down, that's fine. But if you're standing up, you can tell so much more. That's what I find. So I prefer standing up because you're more dynamic and people see more of you. They might trust you more easily, which is very important if you want them to like you. Now, the more important thing is that you feel relaxed. So if you are more relaxed when sitting down, that's fine. Then pitch sitting down. But if you're more relaxed standing up, do that. And if you don't have any clue what to do, I'd say stand up. Okay, but choice is entirely up to you. Now, if you sit down and you have the laptop like this, I've seen some webinars where people are like this and it's like kind of in your face. So that's not really recommended. You don't really need to be at your computer, so you can just easily push it away so people get a proper image of you. Make sure you have some feedback so you can see how you're in the image. And I think just like that, sitting down is fine. Now, when you're standing up, you usually just have a table, and I'll show you. So I'll just put my chair away. So as you can see, you have to adjust the image. Now, as you can see, the image like this is not very great because you can see my double chin. So you can just put it a bit higher. So what did I do? I just took like a very cheap IKEA crutch, not too complicated with those crutches, but a little crutch. I put it onto the table and I put my laptop on top of it. It's quite stable, so be sure it won't fall. And then you can adjust the image once again. Depending on how you talk, you can talk with a lot of arm movements, and if you have big prototypes to show, it's important you have enough distance so you have place enough. Now, the fun thing about this is once you're explaining certain things and you have a question for the audience or you want to really capture them, you can just come forward. And that way, the image is way more dynamic. If you just sit down, it's like always the same silhouette sitting there. So that's why I prefer standing up. Because 3 minutes staring at someone, well, we've all been there, not always that nice. So that's for standing up. Now, the scenery, you can choose how you would do that. Now, I would recommend a white or quiet background. Now, just a white background with nothing in it seems a bit dull to me, a bit boring. So I would recommend to design your background. How can you do that? You can put some elements of your startup in it. So I gave the example, I put my crutches in the image because my pitch will go about my crutches and everything I say is basically about those things. So then it's a good thing that they are in the visual. So if you have a physical product, make sure that they are in the image. If you have an application or anything else, you can put some logos in there or some printed stuff as well. For me, I think this card is not really great. Here, now just some details. You just have to work it out a bit. I think this plant is quite dark. I'm dressed quite light, so it takes a bit too much of the attention away from my crutches as well. So I'm just going to get rid of that as well. And I will add something instead. So I'll add some of my packages. So these are actually just the products like this, but in the boxes. And I'll add an info board as well. Just so there's something going on in the background, not too much, but whatever is going on in the background is relevant to my pitch. That way, people can just see what you're talking about. It's a good thing. So if I'm now saying some really boring things, at least people get to see what you're doing and they might understand it better as well. About the lighting, I tried filming myself yesterday, and beware, yesterday was a very bright day and I didn't really need any extra lights. So it's very important that it's bright enough. I find it still quite dark now because of the the very dark day today. But try to have some lights near you, but don't shine them directly onto you, because then you will have quite sharp shadows. As you can see here, there's some shadows. It's quite all right, but if you put lamps directly onto you and your products, you have very sharp and dark shadows, and they ask a lot of attention. So try to avoid that. If you've chosen a room to present in, make sure there's no echo. I'm here in the living room. It's quite big, as in there's no echo. If you're a very small room, try to put some things inside it that you eliminate the echo. About the noise, yesterday I was Skyping with someone and my cat was like grabbing in her little box, and it was really long and really loud, and afterwards really smelly. So if you record in a room with a cat, please make sure to put the cat away. That would be a great tip I can give you. So I think that's about it about the scenery. Are there any questions so far? They say no. Okay, well, I assume that was clear then. And that I'm doing great. Oh, that's very lovely. Thank you very much. So, okay, perfect. Well, that means that I'll be pitching now, right? Oh, wait, there's a question. Yes, do I suggest a whiteboard? I've been looking for a whiteboard yesterday. I couldn't find it, but looking back, I wouldn't even have used it. It quite depends on your story. If you have nothing live to show, or you have some really points you want to make clear, you can use a whiteboard. That's perfect, but it must fit into your pitch. If it doesn't fit in your pitch, why use it? I would recommend just preparing your pitch, and if you see you need something to explain by drawing something or put some words on it, if you feel like you need something like that, then just use a whiteboard. If not, don't.
I've just unmuted my audio to go through the questions. So, Marie, would you advise interacting with your surroundings? I'm thinking about someone riding a bike or something like that. I don't know, but
Well, it depends. If you interact with something that is not on camera, it's a bit harder. If it's something visual that you see but no one else sees, then I wouldn't recommend doing it, because people don't really know what you just saw. Unless it's something really funny and you can use it in your pitch, but you only have 3 minutes, so if it doesn't make your pitch stronger, I wouldn't do it. Something else, if something happened like your cat would be grabbing into the litter box, you can make just a little fun thing about it, a little joke, because people will hear the sound and they will wonder what it is. And then it's just better to say, hey, it's that, and make something fun about it and just go on. Just focus just for a second on the diversion and take all the attention back to you. That's what I would do.
you'll ask if it's a good idea to have a movie of the use of your product in the background.
I think if you have an app or a platform, I think a video might be of great value, but I'm not sure if you can share it, really like give the file live and play it on the computer. If you can do that, then it's good quality, so I would recommend doing that if it's short enough, so you have enough time to pitch yourself. If you don't have that option and you really want to show a video, you can present it in the back, but you should really test that beforehand, whether the camera really takes the image. Is it on the wall? Is it on a screen? Are there reflections? If people can't really see the video because of some technical things, then the value goes to waste. So, but if you can test it and it's great and it's really a value to your pitch, I would recommend doing it, yes.
Aha, nice. Mary asks, can we give a fun tone to our pitch?
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. If you can, please do. When humor always works, same with the actual things that are happening in the world, like Corona, for example. If somehow you have like an app or a platform that can help people connect with social distancing, that would be great to talk about the coronavirus as well, and how you can yeah, make things better in the situation we are in now. So actual things and humor are very powerful. If you can use them and you can use them well, then that's great. But make sure to, if you want to use humor but it's not really in you and it's kind of awkward, you should practice a bit and then film yourself and see if it's spontaneous enough or not. If it's not, wouldn't really recommend it. But if you have no problem with putting some humor in it, definitely do it. Yeah.
I agree. Bram asks if it's okay to wear headphones for better sound quality.
It's definitely okay. The most important thing is that people can understand you and see you. I should test that beforehand. If you have no headphones, how the sound is. If the sound is great, then you don't really have to change anything, because I find if people wear a headphone, part of their body, part of their face is covered. I like people better without the headphones in an image. It gives a whole part of who you are, I think, in the image. So if you don't need them, if the sound is great, leave them. If you want to use them when the sound is better, do. That's free of choice.
Please, Marie, I'll mute myself again and you can take over.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll just give a little pitch about that. I made sure that the criteria that you need to focus on, that I put those in my pitch as well. So I'll start pitching then. So remember, whenever you need to be on screen, make sure everything is in the image. Yeah. So I need my crutches there. I need myself. Okay. And once you're good in the image, you're ready to start. And then the only thing you need to tell yourself is have fun. So that's what we're going to do. Hi, I'm Marie, and I'm the founder of My Add-on. So what do we do with My Add-on? We pimp crutches and wheelchairs, not only to make them look better, but also to make them more beautiful. And that we do by designing universal add-ons that fit onto any crutch or any wheelchair. Now, today I brought my first product with me, but before I tell something about that, I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever walked with crutches before? Or do you know someone who's ever walked with crutches before? I bet you do, and I bet you also know it's not very nice to walk with crutches. We've been asking our users exactly that question, and they told us that they had really sore hands walking with those crutches, really with blisters even after a few days. And the second biggest problem is that they drop their crutches about 30 times a day. So that's a very, very big problem as well. And luckily for us, we have solved those two problems in one product. So this is the My Sleeve, and the My Sleeve is actually just a kind of cover for the handle of crutches, and it contains a gel patch on top, which divides the pressure points of your hands. Now, how did we solve the falling crutches? We also integrated a little magnet on top, so they can just click together, and you can just lean them against your body, and you have your hands to open doors, pick up a phone, or anything else. Or when someone, and I'll just turn the camera for that, when someone might drop the crutches down, I'll just show you. It's very hard when you're injured, so you just can pick them up with the other crutch without the need to bend over. So that's way more safe. So that's the demo of our My Sleeve. So this is our product. So what's our business model? How do we sell this to the customer? Well, we sell the My Sleeves to the home care shops. So currently we have in Belgium CM, Bon Maison, Ozette, and a lot of other care shops and pharmacists. So we're quite scaled in Belgium, but we're very scalable abroad as well. We're currently dividing in about 7 countries, and we're focusing to go even further than that. Now, scalability is for us not only in geography, but also in product range. So very fun. We are currently preparing the new add-ons for wheelchairs, and we are launching them very soon. So that's a very cool thing. Now, I'm not doing this alone. We have a team of 2 designers, 2 marketeers, and 2 sales profiles. And of course, we are guided by the best mentors as well. So to finalize my pitch, we are focusing on scaling our business. We now have about 7 countries, but we want to scale even further. And to do that, we are asking for a 500K investment. So anyone who's interested or has a proposal or knows someone, please contact us. Thank you very much and hope to hear from you. Bye. So that's about my pitch. That's usually how I do it, kind of. As you can see, I didn't use an attention getter in my pitch. I sometimes do it, sometimes I don't. It kind of depends on your pitch. I already integrated a demo, and that takes a bit of time. So I'd rather show them something than give them a bit of storytelling and an attention getter. But it all depends on how much time you have and of your story, of your flow, because it's different for everyone. Good. Just making sure you have a good image of me. Okay. Hello. So the pitch workshop, we have our pitch. So I have some presentation about that, but you won't be able to show them. So I will go through them very quickly. So we've had the pitch.
Marie, can I quickly interrupt? There's an interesting question coming in that may be of importance to all food startups, but someone's saying, hey, our product needs to be tasted. What can we do about this?
So just talk
Yeah.
about your food, what's special about it. Maybe talk about the first reactions of people, what makes it so special. Perhaps you can play a bit to the feelings, how people feel. When do they eat it? Do they eat it in group? Well, currently probably not. But you can do something with it. But you should think.
Yeah, I'm getting some answers, but you know what, guys? If you're trying to sell your product to the larger public, you can't make everyone taste it before you sell it. So you need to get creative with this, like what Marie suggests, like film people or show pictures of people that are tasting it. If you really want to send samples, you can get creative with it, and describe it as well as you can, or show us how people react to your product.
There are ways to get creative with it, really. Just think about it.
Okay, moving on.
All right, we've had the pitch. So I started with a little intro about who I am. Now you can get an intention getter as well, but as I told you, it should fit your story. You can start with attention getters like, do you know that 1 in 4 people, or yesterday I saw, these are kind of attention getters. And if it fits your story, you can certainly use them. They are very powerful as well. So if you can put them in, yeah, be sure, why not? Yeah. For this pitch, I didn't do it because of the time, because of the demo. So just a regular intro like, hi, I am, just keep it short and then move on to what's important. And something very important I did is I gave a 1-sentence pitch about what it is I do to give them a bit of context, and so they're into the story and they know what I'm talking about, kind of. Many people don't do this, and then I see a lot of jury members sitting like, and what are they doing? That's not a great thing. So be sure to make that 1-sentence pitch very short with simple words, as simple as possible, that people can understand what you do. So with me, the 1-sentence pitch was, we pimp crutches and wheelchairs in order to make them. So that's my 1-sentence pitch. And then you know I make things for wheelchairs and crutches. That's enough. And then you can imagine all the rest and you're in the context. So very important, just a 1-sentence pitch. It's also very handy to have it in just regular conversations or network events. So just make a pitch sentence that fits you, that you can use everywhere. It's helped me a lot of times. So, second of all, the product and USP. Remember when I asked some interaction? So I asked the question, who has ever walked with crutches before, or who knows someone who's ever walked with crutches before? Usually in real audience, people just give hands and then they can tell me their problems. That worked really well. But in a webinar, you have to get creative. I just asked it in order for you to think about your memories with crutches. Usually they're not that great. So that's, in my case, a good thing. But if you haven't walked with crutches yourself, you most definitely know someone with crutches, I can imagine, or you at least saw someone who needed crutches. So try to have some interaction, because if you do that, you make it personal for the jury as well. And if it's personal, they will remember more easily and they will also understand your story way better. Next, I gave a demo of the product. So if you have a live product, a physical product, then that's the easiest part. Then you show it. If you have food as well, show it, serve it in a nice way, so people can really see what you're doing. A physical product, if you give a demo, you don't really need to give it that much explanation, because people can just see it and understand it as well. If you have application or platform, it's a bit more tricky. I might suggest making perhaps some prints and showing what's unique about your platform, but you only have 3 minutes. So I wouldn't go too technical. I would focus on the needs in the world that you can solve and talk about that instead. Okay, so show that there is a real need that no one really solving, or that you're better than the ones who are solving, and how you're solving it. So thirdly, the business model. Remember, I have these 5 blocks, but you might not have seen a real switch in blocks, like this is the first block, and now the second block. And yeah, that's not what I did. I made sure there was a good flow in what I was telling. So from the summary, what we do is I ask myself, okay, what do we do? Then the summary, then, okay, what's our first product? It really helps to ask questions because they're often short and clear, and people can really follow what you're talking about. So what's our product? Okay, you say the product, and then I put my product away, put my crutches away. While I do that, I said, so how are we going to make money out of this? What is the business model? It can help if you use hands, but if you want a whiteboard to have some arrows, fine by me. Just do it the way you're comfortable with. So what I did is, okay, we have us, we sell the product to the home care shops and they sell it to the customers. So that's how our model works. And then, very important, I gave some proof of what we have. So it's not because you say this is the model that it also works. So I gave some proof by telling you what kind of shops we have a deal with, like CM and OZ and Bon Maison, etc. So like that, people can really see, okay, the model works, and then they trust it, and usually, and then they go on. So that's proof. Now, from the business model, I went to scalability, and I literally asked, okay, so is this product scalable? Yeah. And then again, I gave some proof. If you're not in those countries yet, you can say you've already been talking to people, you've been talk about deals or anything. Any kind of proof or a plan you've prepared, anything, an ambition might be good as well. So that about scalability. I also added scalability in geography, but also in product range. So we are going to grow in countries, but also in product range. So I think that's a good thing to show, okay, this is not just one product, but we are working on many other things as well in order to grow, because that's a very important criteria of many jury members, is your ambition to grow and how you will grow. So that's why I added that. And finally, the team. That's mostly to establish some trust, because if you're alone, you can't do everything by yourself. So it's important to tell who's in your team. Don't make it too long. I didn't tell the names because they will probably forget. Now, if your team members are in the Skype call, in the team call, it might be nice to introduce them like that because they're in it, so they are more relevant. So you can add their names. But in my case, I didn't even have a picture or anything standing beside me, so then names are less important to mention. Just important to mention the profiles and that you're well supported, so that people can trust you and your team to make all of this work.
Marie, I'm getting a question in.
Yeah.
Someone noticed that you didn't talk about your competitors, whether they exist or not. Is that something that you should take into account in your pitch?
It definitely can be. I sometimes I put it into my presentation. We are currently the only one making this product, so we are unique. But this slide took a bit too much time, so I deleted it from my 3-minute pitch. Also because I know one of the first questions people ask or jury members ask is the product patented? And then I can just say, yes, it's patented. And then they also know it's innovative and it's new, and we usually don't have that many competitors. But then I go on like, okay, what is currently on the market? Yeah, some really weird things that don't even look like it. So in that way, if you can anticipate on what they will ask, the most common questions, you can delete it from your deck. But it depends. You only have 3 minutes, but you have to focus on the things that you want them to know. I know for sure they will ask it, they always do. So that's why I didn't do it. But if it's for you a better way to show your value, to say, okay, these are our competitors, but they do this, but we do this, then I would recommend doing it. It's all a matter of your timing and how you put your flow. So we move on. I also added a call to action. You don't have to do that. If it's with a jury, I find it sometimes a bit tricky. It depends. If the jury is just there to quote you, it might not be the moment to do that. But if the jury exists of investors, it might be especially good to do that. So if you're looking for anything, is it an investment or looking for certain profiles to grow your team? Or once I just asked for some press attention and I got it as well. So just you can ask whatever you want, and sometimes you really get what you want. So if you have time for that, and yeah, if you really need those things, please do. But it all depends of your motivation when you enter the pitch. If your goal is to get an investment, yeah, well, then it's clear you have to have a call to action, because you really have to literally say what you need. But if you don't have anything to ask, you don't need to invent stuff either. So the second part is the structure of a good presentation. So actually for you, it's the third part, because I have 4 things like the scene, the pitch, and the content and structure. So now we go over to the structure of a good presentation. I divided this in 2 chapters. 1, the preparation, everything you can do before you start pitching, and 2, everything you're doing while you're pitching, so that it's clear for you when you need to do those things. So 1, when you prepare, you need to have some content. What I usually do, so you have so much information, you have to get it in 3 minutes. What I usually do is I just take a piece of paper and I draw some rectangles on it, so empty rectangles, and those are my dias. And then I just put some things in it, and then I work with some arrows, and like that I kind of build my presentation. And I know you don't need to make the presentation as a PowerPoint, but it can help you in your structure. So as you saw before, I did make my presentation for you, even though I didn't show it. It's mainly for myself, in order to know what I will tell first and how I will link those things to each other. 2, create your backgrounds. We'll talk about that later, even though we've talked about it before. Step 3 is body language and camera view. There are some things you can do, so that's fun. And 4, exercise. So a bit more about that. So content. Remember your 1-sentence pitch. You must have been at certain network events or just in the family where people ask, oh, and what do you do? And then you're like, so many things. But you have to put it in 1 sentence that people can understand. And it sounds easy, but it's really hard. I tried like how many times before I got my 1-sentence pitch right. I had one pitch, and then I started to use that one, and then I got some feedback on it, and some questions, and often the same questions. So depending on the feedback you get of your 1-sentence pitch, you know how to reshape it and have a good one. So that's a good tip. Now, networking in these times might be a bit tricky. So I would recommend just calling to people or just remembering the network events of before that you can do as well. So where do people react to? Things that interest them? What questions do they ask? Do they understand your story? All those things are important for your 1 minute, sorry, 1 sentence pitch. Right, so has anyone heard from the paplepel theory, also called the baby spoon theory? It's a shame I cannot have any answers here. Maybe through chat, but it's not necessary because I'm quite sure you haven't. It's something I invented because I've been pitching a lot of times, and you usually get the criteria beforehand. But it's very weird, but almost no one of the pitchers takes the criteria and make sure everything is checked. Almost no one does that. I find it very weird. So make sure you take the criteria and you know by heart what they want to know. The jury will know what to quote on. So if you won't tell them certain things that they're looking for, that's not a good thing. So make sure you just give them everything on a baby spoon and put it to them. So they have everything they need and they want to know. Make it as easy as possible for them to understand your story, okay? And the whole story. Good, so list the criteria and make sure you use the same terminology. If it says scalability, don't start being creative with other kinds of words. It's easier when it's all the same words because subconsciously it will be a check. Okay, I've heard that word, check, okay, check. Now, right now, it's a quite small list of criteria, so that would be quite easy. But in some pitches, it's like a lot and all kinds of terminology. So try to use the same one. It's a sneaky trick that is subconsciously very, very good. So these are the criteria for who did not receive the mail. Is team, is unique selling proposition, it's your product or app or platform, scalability, the money-making business model, and the last one is one that they didn't mention, but it's the most important one. It's likability. It's never a literal thing in criteria, but it's definitely there, and it's the most important one. And why? If you look at the webinar I'm giving, in the first few seconds you saw me, you already made up your mind whether you liked me or not. And that's something we all do with everyone. So make sure you start your pitch with a big smile because the likability is so important. If they don't like you, you can have a great pitch, but it will have an impact on the points. They might want to be as objective as possible, but you know, it always plays, you know that. So make sure to just smile, you know, have fun. So most important thing at this presentation. Okay, so very short, we have had the structure before. So we have the attention getter, perhaps, depending on how you want to pitch. We have the summary, the 1 sentence pitch. We have the product and unique selling proposition. I put those two together, but you can separate them however you want. The business model, just very clear. How will you make money? And a very good tip I can give you is just to literally use a question like, what's our product? What's our business model? How will we make money? Those are very easy questions to understand. So try to use it. Just a tip. Scalability, team, and perhaps call to action. Now, I've put it in this order, but no one is telling you you have to put it in this order. If you're like, okay, I want to start with my team because they're also on the chat and I want to introduce them first, yeah, sure, put that block of team first and talk about your team first. That's fine. You should just make sure that people stay interested. But you know, you have those blocks, and I usually recommend starting with for example, my order, and you will feel that sometimes the order is not in the flow of your story, and then you just change some things. It's your story, your flow. This is fun. So create your backgrounds. Find a relaxing background, a wall or some distance that is very hard to see. That might be a bit harder. Make sure if you have a white wall that it's not too dull, too boring. The lighting, okay, no hard shadows, as I told you before. Eliminate all the distractions. So in the left of the presentation, you see me yesterday evening. Sorry, and you see a lot of hard elements. You see I'm very dark. Also, the plants take a lot of attention. You can feel that the right picture, well, the right, not the left, the right picture, is way better because it's better light, it's lighter. Also, the colors I wear are a better match with my background. And background also represent the atmosphere or anything of my startup. So this is a good yes or no thing to do. I'm just going to check the time. Okay, we're gonna have to hurry a bit through. Quiet place, no echo, and sound check. Check if your microphone is ready. I yesterday checked for setting up this meeting, and there was some hidden setting that my Chrome didn't allow my microphone to be used. But once it was very hard to find that setting, so I had to restart my Chrome again, and then it worked. But make sure you do that all before. You can start a test meeting in this program, and you can just say, okay, test meeting, and then you can log in some empty test space. But then you can see, okay, does your microphone work? Does your camera work? Is every setting all right? And that will give you some relaxation mood. Huh? So be sure to test that beforehand. So body language and the camera view, be open, play with the camera. As you saw, I was pitching and I was like going to the back when I had to explain something with big hand gestures, and I was coming closer when I had to ask you a question. So play a bit with the camera. Also, I gave a demo and I just made sure that it was in the image. So I think that's a nice thing to play with the camera. Don't do it too much because it might be a bit annoying. So dress codes. One, I always tell my pupils, how do you call it, to dress a bit memorable. There was a startup once I got it, and they had a logo, everything in green, and they always pitched with a green sweater or a green t-shirt. And you know, I will never forget that. It's very memorable. It fits with their branding. It doesn't have to be. You could also dress in a clown or anything, but you can only do that if it really fits your company. Make sure there's contrast. If the wall is white and you're dressed in white, might not be the best option. I first had a red sweater. It was kind of hot, so I put it out. So this one is still all right. But if you have like a jacket with a lot of patterns and very busy things, I wouldn't recommend that. It's not very relaxing to look at. Exercise. Why do you need to exercise beforehand? One, confidence. That's the most important thing. You have to have some confidence in yourself in order to be able to have some fun. Two, you will have appreciation of the jury if you can make sure that the timing of your pitch is right. If you go over it, it's never nice because they can't hear the end and it's like, okay, you can go on, or maybe not. I'm not sure how tough they will be, but make sure you exercise on the timing. Really, it's very important, because if you have an important call to action and you do not have the time to tell it, that is a major waste of your pitch. So that's about the no contest lost. And little tip, I would not recommend to memorize your whole pitch, but I would recommend you to memorize the first few lines, because it's new, you see everyone, and suddenly you have to do something. And when you block, often you block in the beginning. So when you just memorize a few first lines, everything will go way more smoothly. It's a very good tip to keep in mind for every kind of pitch. Now, if you're the kind of person who does like to write the pitch down, that's perfectly fine, but make sure to write it in spoken language, because a lot of people write it down in written language, and I can assure you there's a big difference between the two. The spoken language is way more spontaneous, and that's exactly what you will need in a pitch. If you memorize your pitch by heart, all the text. It often sounds a bit monotonous. It's kind of boring often. So practice it, but not too much by heart. Make sure it's fun, spontaneous. That's most important. Okay, and then you know that the jury members will have 5 minutes to ask questions. I told you before, I know they will ask me about if it's patented or not. So I also know they will ask a lot of other questions that are obvious that they will ask me. So prepare for the questions as well. What can they ask you? And make sure you know what to say. Be honest, because they can easily spot when you're lying. If you don't know yet, that's normal. You just started. You're just figuring out everything. As long as you can say, okay, that's a good question. Wow, we missed that. Okay, this is our priority now. We're going to focus on that. For example, that's a good answer as well. Know your numbers. If they ask about how much you've sold or anything like that, be sure to know your numbers. So study a bit in your financials and present the presentation to others and ask them to ask you the hardest questions. It can be over Skype as well. So try that. And the second part is quite short. So important, very important, smile. Okay. You never have a second chance to make a first good impression. So make sure you smile. And if you say hi or hello or good evening or whatever, don't say, yeah, good evening. No, mean it. Hi, good evening. And then I am or whatever, but mean what you say. People just want to be liked. You must give them the feeling that you really like them. And a tip, very nice tip for any kind of pitch, if you're stressed or anything, because it is a live pitch, something that is in our genes, in our inner animal, just relax. Make sure your feet are in the line of your shoulders. You can do it sitting down, you can do it standing up, whatever. Just relax a bit and breathe. And you know why? Because if you breathe and you don't smell any dangerous things, then automatically you're way more calm. I already feel myself talking a bit more slowly. So try that at home. Just make sure shoulders and feet at the same line. And just take a good breathe, and not just breathe, but smell the air. And then you smell, okay, there's nothing dangerous. Fine, no one will harm me. Perfect, have fun, and let's go for it. At first, when I heard that tip, I was like, yeah, sure. But it actually really helps me, and it has helped a lot of other people as well. So good tip. Let them be emotionally touched. So if you have storytelling, please do so. And make sure it's not too long, only have 3 minutes. So why are you an entrepreneur? Why this product? Where did it all begin? You can tell them whatever it is that is relevant to your story, but present in the way you feel about your product. So if you're bored, it's not a great thing. If you're nervous, take the breathe. Passionate is always a good thing, but you know, you don't always have to make them feel passionate, the jury. You can make them feel a bit sad or amazed or like shocked or like, wow, yeah, perhaps. Like making them think or just making them love the project. That's possible as well. So just make them feel anything, because they might forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So try to put some emotion in it. I know it's not always that easy, but with storytelling, it's possible. I know 3 minutes, you have to see how you can implement it. You have to make choices, and making choices is sometimes losing. So make sure you choose the right things to put in. And 3, make a difference with your content. So tell them in an exciting way. I was not here like in a monotonous voice, like, hello, this is the pitching coaching, and it's boring. So put some feeling in what you say. Use your hands, not too much, because that's a bit weird. But use just exciting. So not just read it from a paper or anything. Don't cheat. Just tell it from your heart. Make sure you have a clear structure. That's why I recommend making the PowerPoint anyway, even though you don't use it. But it's easy for you to have some structure in it and to have a good flow in the different blocks as well. And lastly, if you have a demo, please show it. Of course, with platforms and apps, it's a bit more difficult, so you have to get creative with those. And finally, listen to feedback. Advice from experts is gold, absolutely. They always attack you on your weakest points. They did so with me as well in the beginning. And just by knowing your weakest points, that means that you can do something about them. So really, when I thank the jury, I really mean it. And it's good because they like it, but it's also good for me because they really give good tips. So the final part, it's very, very short, just some practical tips I've had during my experience in pitching. Some repeating of what we've said today. So the baby spoon theory, get the criteria and give it to them on a platter or on a spoon in this case. So very important. I really, really cannot imagine how important that is. Memorize your first few lines because it will create some rest in your head. It's like, okay, I know the beginning and I know all the rest. I'll be all right then. Just the first few lines are important. If you write text, write spoken text, not written text. It's a big difference, I assure you. Breathe in and smell the air. I really hope you're not cooking then, that there's nothing wrong, but just breathe in and smell the atmosphere, and you will notice that your body will calm down. Really, it does. Also, silence is gold. You will have a lot of information, new information for the jury. If you can arrange just a little bit of silences, not like you're thinking about something, but more like you choose to be silent at that moment. In the beginning, when I pitched, I said, do you know? And I asked a question, and then I paused for a while. Not too long. I didn't start too quickly with rest. Just if you say something very important in your pitch, give it a little pause. Just a little pause. It makes them process the info way better. Smile. The first few seconds are judgment time. So smile and have fun. Really have fun. So important. And finally, exercise. So log into the test program. I tested it yesterday. It was a perfect test. So please do it that all your microphones are turned on so you don't miss the pitch, because it can sometimes take half an hour to put the settings all right once you find them. Also exercise on camera, not just for the settings. Not for the settings in the program, but also exercise on camera. To make sure your background is all right, to design it, put some plans, put them away again, just try some things out. Adjust the lighting as well. I have a lot of lamps here, but I had to position them in certain ways so my shadows weren't too hard, and I had good lighting on my face, etc. So test that. Also your clothing, you can just take a screenshot of your web camera, and then you can compare what outfit would be good with the background you use. And of course, you can also record yourself and hear whether how you're talking. You can adjust anything in that camera. So that's about it for those tips. Some other tips outside of the online pitching is you can Google the jury. You can see a lot of things on Facebook and in LinkedIn. What are their hobbies? Because if you have a startup in like something with a sport and that jury member is a big fan of it, you can do something with it, you know, and it makes you memorable. A blackout. Usually when I ask my pupils who's had a blackout, I get a lot of hands, really a lot. So in this case, it's a bit harder, but I have some notes right beside me, right beside the screen. So that's a good thing to avoid those blackouts. But if you're in a live pitch, like offline, it's a good thing to have on your presentation a question like, what's our mission? What's I don't know, what's the business model? Question mark. And every time you have a blackout, You just watch your screen, you read the question, and you're like, hey, I know the answer to that question. And then you continue. Um, it's a very subtle but a very nice way to use. Shaking, again, if I ask it, a lot of people show hands. So if you're shaking, if you're stressed, do the inhaling exercise, smell the atmosphere. That's one way to stop the shaking. But also, if you have a PowerPoint, you will know. If you exercise the presentation, you will know what parts are a bit harder for you to present, and then you can do something about it. You can insert a movie, for example, and during that movie, you have time to just relax. So those are some tricks as well. Improvisation. If something happens during your live pitch in this program, like the cat in the litter box, you know they will hear it very loudly. So just pick in on it. Just take the lead, give it a very brief moment of attention, and then take back all the attention. Because if you don't do that, people, they like, oh, what's that sound? And they won't be listening to you anymore. So take the lead, a little bit to diversion, and then get it back. Follow up, you can always email or ask more questions about the feedback to your jury members. You can follow them on LinkedIn, social media. So this is a summary. So content and structure, create your background, body language and camera view, exercising on timing as well. And two, when you're there, good first impression. Remember, have fun, because it is fun that you have this opportunity. Put some emotions in it if you can. Make a difference with content, and please listen to the feedback, because it's so very valuable. Bye.